So what happens when a country decides to just outlaw an ancient social hierarchy? I mean, do all those deep-seated divisions just poof, vanish with the stroke of a pen? Or does that old architecture, that old framework just become invisible? Today, we're diving into how these old social structures can stick around long after they've been officially dismantled.
See, officially, the story is pretty straightforward. The Indian Constitution banned discrimination based on caste decades ago. And, the common belief, the story you hear, is that this system is just a thing of the past, something that doesn't really define modern society anymore. But then you look at the data, and when you peel back that official story and just look at the hard numbers, the picture changes a lot. The data shows that those old structures, those inequalities, they're not just still with us. In many ways, they're thriving.
And that brings us to the big question, right? Is this whole system really just a ghost, a relic of the past? Or has it just gotten a lot better at hiding in plain sight, becoming less obvious but maybe no less powerful?
To really find the answer, we have to go past just stories and look at the actual evidence. The data is where the real story is. It shows this huge contrast between who the people of the country are and who actually holds the power.
So first, let's just get a lay of the land. Who makes up India's population? Well, more than 70% of the country belongs to what are considered historically marginalized groups. That's the scheduled castes, scheduled tribes, and other backward classes. The other 30% or so are in the general category. Now remember that 70-30 split. It is absolutely key to everything we're about to see.
Okay, now let's put that population map up against the map of power. Take a look at the senior judiciary, for example. The general category, remember, they're only about 30% of the population, but they hold almost 90% of the top jobs. Meanwhile, that massive 70% majority is practically invisible. This isn't just a small gap, it's a total flip of the country's demographics.
And the courts aren't some weird exception. We see the exact same thing happening in the media, another one of society's big pillars. The leadership roles, overwhelmingly held by that same 30% group. And that's a huge deal. It means the people who are shaping the national conversation, literally the stories a country tells about itself, don't actually reflect the nation.
And this imbalance of power, well, it hits people's wallets hard. The data is pretty clear that 70% majority is way more likely to be in poverty, to be doing manual labor, to not own land. And on the flip side, the 30% minority, you find them vastly overrepresented on corporate boards and in the country's highest income levels.
But wait, you might be thinking, isn't education supposed to fix all this? Isn't it the great equalizer? Well, while access to education has definitely gotten better, the results tell a different story. There's still a really big gap in who succeeds in higher education. It creates this bottleneck early on, which kind of limits people's chances long before they even start a career.
So, this gets us to the core puzzle. If the official legal system was torn down, why do all these patterns of inequality look so consistent, so systematic? What's the engine that's still driving all of this?
This is where we need a new idea. Let's call it the invisible architecture. Just imagine the hidden scaffolding that holds up a social structure, right? It's still there, doing its job, even after the original building plans were thrown in the trash.
Now, the textbook term for this is structural inequality. And the most important thing to get here is that this isn't about individual people being bad or prejudiced. It's about the framework itself, the way institutions work, the social habits we all have, the cultural biases that just quietly, silently keep the old order in place.
Let's just put it as plainly as possible. The caste system didn't just go away. It went underground. It became invisible, especially to the people who aren't directly hurt by it. And now it just operates in the background of everyday life.
So what are the actual pillars of this invisible architecture? Well, for one, surnames, which can immediately tell someone about your background. Then there are social networks. You know how it is. Opportunities often get passed along between people who come from similar places. Then, of course, there's inherited wealth, which gives some people a massive head start. And finally, there's something called cultural capital. All those unspoken rules about how to dress, how to talk, how to act, that can get you into elite circles.
Okay, so if this architecture isn't built out of laws anymore, where's its foundation today? This is where we have to shift our focus from the outside world of rules and paper to the inside world of perception.
Because the simple truth is this: the system survives, not because it's written down in some book, but because it exists in our minds. It lives in our unconscious biases, in our gut feelings, in our social assumptions, and it lives in the stories we tell ourselves to explain why society is the way it is.
And that really leaves us with one last very deep question. If a system doesn't live on paper anymore, but it lives inside our own heads, how do you even begin to take it apart?